Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining regular meeting for February 9th, 2016. Please rise to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Detour?
Here.
Councilmember, excuse me, Jeffrey?
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire?
Here.
Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
And Supervisor Levenberg.
Here I am.
We have this evening a public hearing in the matter of local law number 3, 2016, repealing Chapter 85 of the Town Code regarding secret process.
I'd like to turn it over to our town council, Steve Silverberg, to discuss the reason that we're holding this public hearing tonight and a short explanation of what it's all about.
Okay, there's State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR, has regulations that require that certain review of environmental impacts of projects or actions be undertaken by municipalities before they approve them. Town, back in the early 80s, adopted their own regulations pursuant to the then state regulations. And unfortunately, while there have been a couple of additions to those regulations over the years, they haven't been updated in order to comply with current state regulations, which were modified a number of years ago. So when we came on board, we looked through this and we found several things that we believe are inconsistent with the state regulations. In some cases, there's terminology that doesn't exist anymore, and other things of that nature. The real purpose behind the state allowing of municipalities to adopt their own regulations was so that if there was something that the municipality felt was of particular environmental concern, it could adopt called their own Type 1 list. Type 1 actions are actions that are more likely to require a full environmental review. So we had proposed repealing this, and I know that you've gotten a memorandum from the EAC regarding this. There's some concerns that by repealing the entire law, you would be eliminating some of the additional Type 1 actions that the town has that they believe are important. So while we've going to open the hearing tonight and hear any comments on it, it's our recommendation that the matter be held open and adjourned, and that in the interim we're going to work on a local law that would adopt those additional Type 1 actions, and that would be done simultaneously so there would be no gap. There would be coverage of those issues going forward.
Okay.
Is there anyone here that would like to address the board on this? Please state your name and your residential address.
Hi, my name is Mitzi Elks, and I live at 23 Hearst Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York, Town of Ossining. And I am the chairperson for the Environmental Advisory Committee to the Town of Ossining. And I'm here on behalf of the members of the EAC, which are comprised of 5 people and 2 a high school and a middle schooler, and a liaison from the planning board and a liaison from the zoning board. And as an EAC, we met this past week at the request of at the request of Supervisor Levenberg, and we discussed the potential revoking of the town code, referred to also as Chapter 85, and we did focus on Type 1 list, and as our town attorney very eloquently stated, that the Type 1 list is the list that is most likely to be regarded as significant potential negative environmental impacts that the town needs to consider when reviewing proposed applications before the board. So we looked at the Type 1 list, and what we concluded in our findings, and we presented in this letter to Supervisor Levenberg, that it would be in the best interest of the town to not revoke the town code, chapter 85, until, and as is the plan, it sounds, until the type 1 action list is fully reviewed and simultaneously adopted at the point of revoking the out-of-date town code, which sounds extremely reasonable to bring it in compliance with the state regulations. So that was the conclusion of the committee, and we presented each type 1 action and identified at least 8 actions in addition to possibly 2 additional actions to add to the list that should be retained.
Want to read your letter into the record?
It's not that long, which is good.
And then maybe just submit recommendations also
There's
to
table
town
1.
clerk. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's regarding EAC comments, Town Code Article 85 versus Seeker, State Environmental Quality Review Act. Dear Supervisor Levenberg, per your request and on behalf of the Town of Ossining EAC, Environmental Advisory Committee, this committee has performed a review of the Town Code Environmental Quality Review Article 85, heretofore referred to as Town Code, updated November 10th, 2005, against sections part 617.4 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. We evaluated these regulations for the purpose of advising the town on the overall effectiveness of the town code to further protect our valuable natural environmental resources on the local level. It should be noted that the EAC has focused primarily on the review of Type 1 listed actions in the town code against the Type 1 listed actions in SEQR Title 6, Chapter 6 of Part 617.4. Our findings, EAC findings, the EAC advises that overall the town code provides a more stringent environmental quality review of Type 1 actions than Type 1 listed actions under SEQR law, actions which will likely have a significant negative impact on the environment. We further recommend that the SEQR Type 1 listed actions not mentioned and or less stringent than listed in the town code Type 1 list be added to and or strengthened in the town code. We fully support the town's affirmation that the preservation and protection of our natural resources not be compromised in the short and or long term, and in doing so, the extra layer of local environmental town code should remain in effect until a more protective Town of Ossining town code is fully prepared and simultaneously adopted. Please reference the attached Table 1, which is entitled EAC Chart Type 1 Actions, Chapter 85 versus SEQR Law, February 2016, for a more detailed comparison of the Type 1 actions of these two laws. As noted in Table 1, there are at least 8 Type 1 actions from the Town Code that are more stringent than SEQR. Of particular significance is Type 1 listed action number 10 of our Town Code, which specifically is intended to protect the town's wetlands, pursuant to the Town of Ossining Chapter 105 Freshwater Wetlands Protection Ordinance. The EAC also recommends in Table 1 that the following Town Code Type 1 action 856A2 be amended and strengthened as follows. The adoption of changes in the allowable uses within any zoning district affecting 10 or more acres of the district, as opposed to identifying particular zoning districts, and keep it more open. The EAC, which would also mirror what SEQR lists. The EAC would also like to recommend that the following SEQR Type 1 listings be added to the Ossining Town Code as critical components of the determination of significance. For instance, number one, this type 1 list is not exhaustive of those actions that an agency determines may have a significant adverse impact on the environment and require the preparation of an EIS. However, the fact that an action or project has been listed as a type 1 action carries with it the presumption that it is likely to have a significant adverse impact on the environment and may require an EIS. For all individual actions which are type 1 or unlisted, the determination of significance must be made by comparing the impacts which may be reasonably expected to result from the proposed action with the criteria listed in subdivision 617.7C of this part. And just as a note, EIS, Environmental Impact Statement, is what that acronym is for. In conclusion, the EAC recommends that the type 1 listed actions of our Town Code Chapter 85 not be revoked until an amended Town Code is prepared and adopted for its simultaneous replacement. The absence of this environmental town code would potentially compromise the town's ability to reach a reasonably accurate determination of significance of any proposed environmental actions before the town. We sincerely thank you for the opportunity to review and comment on these SEQRA regulations and town code. Hope that this information has been helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful. And later on, in the agenda of the meeting, we're also going to be referring matter to the planning board to also take a look at, and I think. So in any case, I just wanted to say that what we're planning to do is keep the public hearing open, and I know that. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, are you going to ask for additional?
Yes, is there anyone else who's come to address the board?
Donna Sharrett, 84 Morningside Drive. So I'm thrilled that you're going to add the type 1. So I wrote all this before that, so I'll just put it in the record anyway, just to add a reinforcement to what you're already doing. So I just wanted to present a picture of what's happening in the planning board at the moment. 6 proposed developments are currently in the planning board review process, 4 of which are large proposals on properties with wetlands and or watercourses and or their required buffers. 3 of these projects propose to disturb or destroy one or more of these resources and or their required buffers. 1 of the properties is also within a FEMA flood zone. 2 are in the Sing Sing watershed upstream from areas which have flooded in the village of Ossining. 2 are in the Pecanico River watershed upstream from areas which have flooded on North State Road, Gordon Avenue, and Briarcliff Manor. And one of the projects that, going off script here, one of the projects actually has 3 wetlands on it. That's a very large project. And the headwaters for tributaries for the Pecanico River watershed. And it also was on the open space inventory, which the EAC completed in 2013. And that, I believe the goal was for that open space inventory to create an open space corridor to T-Town. So unfortunately, this is development is proposed on that property. But there are a lot of environmental issues with these proposed projects. Many of our town's wetlands have been lost to development over the past several decades, and our streams culverted. Wetlands and watercourse buffers absorb floodwaters. Flooding is a public safety issue. Wetlands are our best tools for carbon sequestration, and as such, their protection is a climate change issue. We should absolutely expect that more proposed actions with potential negative impacts to our natural resources will come before the planning board. When considered, the Town Code 85-6A10 offers protection to our town's wetlands, water bodies, and watercourses and their required buffers, protection that is not included in the state's SEQRA regulations. Additionally, several of the state's SEQRA Type 1 actions, as Mitzi explained, have thresholds that are greater than those in our town's SEQRA regulations and are therefore less stringent. In my opinion, it is my opinion that the less stringent state SEQRA Type 1 actions could potentially be damaging to our town because of all of the proposals that are being presented to the planning board at the moment. Ideally, developers would present proposals that do no harm to our town's natural resources. In reality, we need strong CEQA regulations and the requirement that these regulations are observed and enforced during the planning review process for every proposed project. I ask that the town board not revoke Chapter 85 of our town's code and instead set up a goal to amend this code so that it's both compliant with the state regulations and offers the maximum protection for our town and its precious natural resources. And of course, what's been presented of making this separate list is also sounds really good to me. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board? Not seeing anyone. May we have a motion to adjourn this until March the 8th? Do I have a-
moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
Okay, we'll move on to announcements.
Great. Okay, I guess I'll start us. We have been very busy in the town. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of some of the business of the town over the last couple weeks. I recently met with Chris Soy, who is our recreation director, to discuss the employee wellness program, which the village is planning to launch and also include our town employees. The kickoff is planned for February 24th. Along with the village, we will be offering employees recreation cards at the resident rate, as well as lunchtime programs to help encourage stress-free, healthy living and working. Work continues at the Shine House, and our parks guys and some highway helpers are so talented, and they have been doing such a great job. I also took a tour of the almost complete rehabbed garage at Ryder Park, which will allow for a more efficient running of our parks crew and their business. I met with the folks from Energize New York, who helped bring Solarize Ossining and Energize Ossining here, and also were involved in the financing of the project with Terra Tile to bond the payments for their solar panels and pay them back on their taxes. And they are going to see a great savings from that project, which they have explained publicly they were going to put back into employing more people, and that's going to help everybody here. So I hope that other businesses will look into take advantage of the benefits that they can find through that type of financing. And I also met, when we met with Energize New York, I met with Mayor Garrity and Briarcliff trustee Brian Zerman, and Energize is working on, would like to work with us on ways to relaunch the Energize program and reinvigorate it since it has leveled off. We're hopeful we can get more of our residents and businesses on board with improvements to help our environment and to save everybody money. The Ossining Volunteer Ambulance Corps, I had great pleasure of spending time with Nick Franzoso, who's the chief. I took a tour of OVAC with him, looked at all the trucks, ambulances, and the fly cars, and talked to him about the operation and the mutual aid that they provide for Sleepy Hollow and Croton. And we had an opportunity to visit Sleepy Hollow as well. We should be very proud of what we have here. We have a tremendous team of professionals and volunteers who are working to make sure we are always able to respond to emergencies quickly and safely, and they are also able to collect monies from insurers, Medicaid and Medicare, to offset the overall expense to the town for doing this. And as part of the Mid-Hudson Ambulance District, this is another way that we can look for efficiencies and figure out better and more efficient systems for helping everybody in the municipalities that the Mid-Hudson Ambulance District serves. The LED streetlight replacement program is close to completion. There are some fixtures that were complicated that were left for the end, plus some in Cedar Lane Park that were waiting for fixtures to be installed. We are figuring out also if there are additional lights that we would like to see in this program, which can help us get the costs for them cost-free. Paul Fraioli, the village engineer, has been working with Lumen and Verdi Lighting on this program for the town and the village, and he will give us a formal update at next week's work session. There is also been talk with these companies about how we can, if we need to, aim some of the lights if they are very disturbing, because they're very, very bright, and we ask people not to look directly into them. But they do offer great safety because they do offer a sort of a broader spread of light. So that's the benefit. I also met with Fred Smith, our CSEA representative, as well as Lou Picani and Roger Toronto, our Teamsters representatives. Lou has recently been elected the new president of Local 456. Even though we do not have a contract up for negotiation, I am pleased to work collaboratively with our collective bargaining units to make sure our employees are fairly treated and well represented. I spent Thursday morning in this building with the town court observing their different processes and protocols. They have some very strong and streamlined protocols in place to check and double check that all of their reporting is done correctly, and that's very important. I was very impressed with their operation. I attended a kickoff meeting for Earth Day 2016 led by Susie Ross of Green Ossining. Also in attendance were the village, the Parks and Recreation Department heads, Mike Risco, Maddie Zahach, and we discussed plans for Earth Day scheduled for April 16th with the theme of water conservation. We already have a number of vendors signed up, and plans are in the works for music and many of the same vendors as last year, and hoping to expand. Last year we had 3,000 people attend, and we're hoping to beat that this year. We're co-sponsoring this with the village and Green Ossining, and we will once again pledge to not generate any refuse that is not recyclable. If anybody is interested in being a vendor, you can get in touch with us, and we'll put you in touch with Susie Ross. I have been reviewing the comprehensive plan updates that the previous town board voted on, and I feel this would be a good subject for our next work session, which will give us the opportunity to make sure the plans align with what we collectively believe the community supports for our best foot forward, and then unpack portions of the plan that require we take action, setting up new regulations, zoning changes, or committees. I hope this will give us an opportunity to discuss any challenges we see to current proposals before the planning and zoning boards as they relate to the comprehensive plan. We are expecting more snow this week. The latest looks like tomorrow will be another tricky day for commuters, with snow expected from this evening through 6 a.m. The winter weather advisory for this area, the last looked, will be in effect until noon tomorrow, with 2 to 4 inches expected. So please check the weather before going out onto the roads if they are not yet plowed. 3 of us are scheduled to go to the Association of Towns Conference next week so we can continue to learn about best practices and the latest technology and services available to municipalities. We will also have an opportunity to vote on the association's legislative agenda, and we will discuss that later this evening. Events coming up. The Westchester Municipal Officials Monthly Meeting is this Thursday, February 11th at 6 p.m. in Hawthorne. I will be attending. Galata House is hosting 3 upcoming fundraisers. This Thursday, February 11th at 5:30, Charity Couture, an event at the Briarcliff Manor, 25 Studio Hill Road in Briarcliff, with food and wine, a fashion show, silent auction, and shopping with high-end vendors. Tickets available at galatahouse.org. This Sunday, Valentine's Day, spend it with Obla D, the Beatles tribute band at the Briarcliff Manor, also 25 Studio Hill, as I mentioned. You can call the Aruchis at 402-4250 or go to galatahouse.org or reserve online. And finally, Ossining Family Fun Night with the Westchester Knicks is going to be at the Westchester County Center February 19th at 7 p.m. This is free for the first 100 kids. Limit is 3 free youth for 1 adult ticket. Tickets are going fast and can be purchased at the Ossining Community Center. First come, first serve. Let me just find, I have another. Celebrate History Open House at the Ossining Historical Society Museum is this Monday, President's Day, February 15th, from noon to 3 p.m. Should be exciting, and I encourage everybody to go to that. The Grow Local film series, sponsored and hosted by Down to Earth Markets, is at their headquarters at 173 Main Street on February 18th at 6:30 p.m. and they will be featuring the film Tune for the Blood, which follows the lives of a new generation from family farms in rural Herefordshire over a year as they face challenges of farming and keeping their communities alive in the modern world. Also, there's Splash Dynamic, an intermediate advanced watercolor workshop, which is taking place Saturday and Sunday, February 20th and 21st, sponsored by the Austin Arts Council at the Steamer Firehouse Gallery, 117 Main Street. And the County Mobile Shredder will be in town on February 27th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the community center. So get your shredding documents together. I think that there's a maximum of 4 boxes that you can bring. I know I have mine ready because we recently energized our home and cleaned out our attic. So I strongly suggest you take heed and do the same yourselves. We are also in the middle of the Lunar New Year, so I just wanted to say Happy Lunar New Year to everybody. It's observed from February 8th for 15 days and ends with the full moon 15 days later with the full moon on February 22nd. And this is the Year of the Monkey. So Happy Lunar New Year. I think I might have hit everything. If there's anything that I missed, I'm now going to just turn it over to any members to see. I do. Aaron.
Two announcements. One is that it's tax season, but if you qualify, you can get your taxes done for free, and you can call 914-941-5252. That's the Interfaith Council for Action, and make an appointment to get your taxes done for free. Again, for people who qualify, I want to say they change it every year, but typically, if you earn less than $55,000 a year, you can get your taxes done for free. You can also go on Monday nights to the high school between 4:30 and 7:30, and you can walk in there, and we have dozens of students who know how to prepare income taxes who will prepare your income tax for free. So please do that and get your refund. I also want to announce that a group of or members of the community and the faith-based community have become concerned that there may be some people here in our community who struggle with homelessness, who may not have a warm place to sleep, especially now that it's very cold outside. So starting on Sunday night and going through February 21st, Trinity Church is opening their doors overnight for people who may not have a place to sleep. And this is adults only. People will meet at a supervisor will meet them at Open Door at 9 o'clock, walk over to Trinity Church where they will be served a hot meal. They will have a place to sleep, receive breakfast and a bag lunch in the morning. So if you know of anyone who may be in a difficult situation, this is a place where somebody can get a little respite from the cold. If there is a real need, the faith-based community is going to look for ways to extend the program through the rest of the winter. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to public comments on any agenda items. Is there anyone to address any of those? Not seeing them, we'll go into the board resolutions. Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby approves the January 26th, 2016 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated February 9th, 2016 in the amount of $107,911.96 for 2015 and $256,099.76 for 2016. Grand total of $364,011.72.
Have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Tax certiorari, whereas proceedings pursuant to Article 7 of the Real Property Tax Law of the State of New York were instituted by 231 South Highland Realty Corporation against the town of Ossining to review the tax assessments made on petitioner's property located at Schuman Court, town of Ossining, and designated on the tax assessment map of the town of Ossining in section 97.15, block 4, lot 8, for tax assessment year 2015, which proceedings are now pending in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester, under index number 673-4515, and whereas the above petitioner has agreed to a compromise and settlement of such proceedings subject to the approval of the town board, correcting and reducing the assessed valuation of its real property and improvements as follows: 231 South Highland Avenue Realty Corp., Schuman Court, Austin, New York, section 97.15, block 4, lot 8. Whereas any and all refunds necessitated by said settlement will be made without interest, and whereas the town board, upon the recommendation of the assessor concurred by the town council, finds the proposed settlement appropriate and in the best interest of the town of Ossining. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement, and it is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of the settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $0, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Second. Discussion. I just want to mention that we have a number of tax certs coming up. There are 6 altogether. Our best assessor's office and our legal counsel to best interest of all of the taxpayers as well as those. So just want to let you know that we've got a lot here, so maybe, I don't know if there's some way that we can get through them a little quicker. They will be available tomorrow.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Are you reading, you have to read them all? I mean, they're each separate resolutions, so.
What I would suggest, if you want, is you can indicate property involved, and then for the public estimate as to what the refund is involved, written agenda rather than read.
Okay. That'd be-
Sounds good to me. Okay, tax certiorari, Campwood Realty LLC, 90.13-1-81 versus the town of Ossining. And we resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $148.26, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Tax certiorari 529 North State Associates versus the town of Ossining. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes estimated to be $23,194.88, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
N&G Realty Company LLC versus Town of Austin. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the Town of Austin, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of Town of Austin taxes estimated to be $1,109.82, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
NSRR Realty LLC versus Town of Austin. Resolved subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the Town of Austin, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of Town of Austin taxes estimated to be $10,908.05, which will be ordered pursuant to consent judgment.
Can I have a motion?
A question. I'm sorry. These are the reductions here for this property?
Remember, there were two lots.
15.4, right, so on one, it says reductions, I'm just having a math problem. 15.4, 11.7, 8.1, 4, 8.25, 5.4, and then it says that refund is estimated to be $10,908.
Now, the numbers that you read are the reductions in the assessment,
Okay,
aren't the reductions in taxes.
okay, thank you. Just a, do the clarification for a minute.
Kim, did you make that motion?
I am so moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Jewel of Asia Realty Corp. versus Town of Austin. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the Town of Austin, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of Town of Austin taxes estimated to be $17,423.23, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Reese Realty LLC versus Town of Austin. Resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the Town of Austin, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement, and the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of Town of Austin taxes estimated to be $0, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Bill.
Resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Austin hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign an agreement with Interstate Fireworks, Inc., P.O. Box 260, Roland, Pennsylvania, to furnish a display of fireworks on June 30th, 2016, for a contract amount totaling $24,255.
We have a motion.
Second.
So this is a company that we've used in the past, and we've been very happy. They've done excellent fireworks, and you need to book companies fairly early so you get the date that you want, and I believe that the date we have is June 30th for the fireworks. So it's right here. Thank you. It's red.
Wait, Thursday.
Yes. That's the date that we could get.
It's also a lot less expensive to get it on not a weekend night.
Don't do it on a weekend.
Yeah.
Better early than late.
Probably true.
That's probably the problem. So you want to get it for the week. So, okay. All those in favor? I got,
Are we still discussing?
oh, we're still done discussing?
I mean,
Oh.
I wouldn't hate
Did
it.
did I
more
call for a
closer
motion?
to-
I think I did the motion already.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay, no, I mean, I wouldn't hate it a little closer to the weekend, but I mean, financially, if it's that big a difference, I think we should keep.
Is it the only people that we can use to get, I mean, I know we've used it, but June 30th seems early. I mean,
June 30th
I'm
is the
gonna-
Thursday before. The problem is July 4th is on a Monday, so it would force you'd have Friday, Saturday, or Sunday
all right.
to do it, which would all be weekend days, which I'm assuming,
Have we not
Madam
done them
Supervisor?
before on weekdays, on weekend days?
True.
Expensive for them, but it's also more expensive for us, because we, and I believe the village also provides labor for that day, so it helps us out a bit to have it on a weekday as opposed to on a Saturday or Sunday.
But have we done it before on a weekend?
I would have to look into that, I don't know the answer.
We've traditionally done it on July 3rd, because, and I asked the reasoning, and it was because everybody had July 4th off. I really don't know that everybody's going to have Friday, July 1st off. I don't know, and having the kids up late may not be really good for the family. Might want to rethink that.
I was gonna say, I mean, fireworks have to start at 9 o'clock at night because that's when it's
Dark.
so you're asking, you're asking families who have younger children not to.
This is a date that was actually chosen with the company back in October of 2015 in order to guarantee the pricing at the point where it is. So if it's the board's pleasure, we could table the resolution and go back to the company and see if there's anything else they can do for us, but I think at this late date, that's going to be difficult. But if that's what you'd like, we can certainly try.
Not having been involved in the, I don't know exactly, but it sounds to me like from what Maddie's saying that, might end up or deal with them. So I don't know if we want that, but if to go take that chance, I guess.
Well, I mean,
Can
we
we
don't,
table it for-
we can table it without losing our contract. I mean, we
That's
can,
that's the question. I don't know if they need us to, because we also have to pay them in certain, I think we're supposed to be giving them a first payment.
In the voucher detail
Voucher.
report was their deposit. We could certainly hold the check. We've done that before as well for other vendors, so it's really all up to you. I can make a phone call to them first thing tomorrow morning and see, if they can accommodate us on a different date. It is also worth pointing out that this is school's out for the summer, so getting up early the next morning isn't as much of an issue as it would be at a different time of the year, so that's something else to consider.
Well, camp and, people who go to work. Saying.
Whatever you'd like.
I mean, I think it's worth, I understand what we're saying. It's always worth asking a question. It's- I think
Okay.
it's always worth asking. a
So
question.
we'll table this? Is that the pleasure of the board?
If you think that there might be another option that would be financially feasible, then it makes sense, I guess, to ask. I'm a little bit concerned, though, at this late date, given the time frame you're talking about being able to do this, that, we wouldn't want to set our hopes on that. Looks like we're locked, to me, it looks like we may be locked into this date.
I mean, I would have thought that at the time that it was being negotiated, that the supervisor at the time would have been trying to get the best date possible and would have had the same kinds of issues, not necessarily wanting June 30th as the first choice. Having not been party to those negotiations, I can't say. Maddie, I don't know, again, if you can say if they tried to get, Monday night, was that an option versus, and Friday night was already said was considered a weekend night. I don't know if you said that, but Friday night considered a weekend night versus the Thursday night? Do you remember?
I wasn't part of the conversations as well, but
Okay.
like I said, I could give a call to Pennsylvania in the morning and see. I also, the clerk brings up as well that this is also in conjunction with the village, so changing it is probably not going to be as easy for them either at this point. But if you guys would like to do a special meeting next week to reopen this, we can certainly do that.
What do you mean in conjunction with them and not having them make it, what do we
Well, they're
mean?
planning around this date as it is, around this June 30th date.
And,
So,
and that has to do with personnel that they have working?
Right, yeah. I thought we agreed to pay for it.
Well, that's why I'm asking is because it's at the town park, we are now paying for the fireworks but I assume that it's both village and town personnel who work, both.
correct.
I actually think it was the Thursday last year, or
I think that's
July
what we're trying to
4th.
figure out.
So I think it was, I think it was,
Remember, Maddie? I think it's usually on a Thursday. I think it's been Thursday the past couple of years.
It wasn't
That's,
supposed to. Remember the exact date.
It was probably Thursday, July 2nd.
it was a Thursday. Right, it was the Thursday preceding July 4th. My recommendation would be that we should approve it. And if for some reason we can make a change to this after we've approved the contract with them that's still within the confines of the contract, then, and then we have a conversation with the village and we can introduce another resolution to revoke the date and change it to another date. But I'm concerned that if we don't approve, get contracted, budgeted. So that'd be my recommendation.
Yeah, I do want to go on record too. I think we've always had it on a Thursday. I think we've had it on Wednesdays before. It's always been during the week, and I know it has been an issue. A lot of companies will give a 4-day weekend for 4th of July. That's like becoming more and more common practice. Not everybody gets off 4 days, but that's always been the case, regardless of whether it's the 1st of July or the 2nd of July or, the Friday. Not everybody gets the Friday before the 4th of July weekend off. So I think we may be making an issue that's always been an issue just because we moved the date to June 30th, and it seems a little bit
Early.
especially early because of the way it's scheduled, but we've always done it that way.
And that's the July 4th
And not
weekend.
everybody, and not everybody always gets that Friday off, so it's always been that way.
well, that was the first question I had,
Yeah.
was, do we know when we've had them before? Has it been Thursdays? But
I mean, we
nobody,
may-
Well, we almost always did it on July 3rd, because July 4th, everybody had off. And July 3rd was usually was a weekday, any kind of a weekday. But because the last couple of years, July 3rd has fallen on a weekend, they have moved it for financial reasons.
So, once again, I stick with my same recommendation, which is that we approve this.
But
and then,
Maddie, did you say that it has to be paid tomorrow?
We cut the deposit check in the voucher run that the board just approved this evening.
Okay.
We could hold the check. That's not a problem because we haven't even had the supervisor sign the contract yet. So I was just trying to get ahead of the game by putting the deposit in so we could send it in with the signed contract. If you guys are going to hold off on voting, that's fine. We'll hold the check. That's not a problem.
I stick with asking questions. That's just where, I just like to ask questions.
so, but if you had your druthers, which date would it be?
I mean, I think a Friday night is better than a Thursday. I think closer to July 4th is better than, I mean, we're talking, if it's Thursdays, June 30th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, we're talking 4 days away from July 4th. I think that's a fairly large discrepancy. So, I
Can I
would
make a
say
sug-
Friday or the July 4th, which is the Monday, which I think everybody would do. So then that would probably be exorbitant. But, I don't know. It's just a question.
Can I make a suggestion in line, concern that you might lose date? You could add to the proposed resolution, at the end of it, something along the lines of, provided the supervisor is unable to modify date to a later date, same or a lower fee, then give the supervisor the opportunity to check.
Yes.
Sure.
This way you haven't
Held it.
perhaps lost the opportunity.
Yes.
Good
Be
idea.
great. Perfect.
Well,
And I need a motion as
all
amended.
right, all right. The other question is, if it's going to be on a weekend or closer, are we willing to pay a little more, or that's what we have budgeted and that's all we got?
We're budgeted for the cost of the contract. This isn't taking into account the cost for time and a half for,
weekend day,
for our
right.
Parks Department. That's
Okay.
a separate issue altogether.
Right, but I think that when we budget, when the budget was set last year, it was knowing that we were going to do it on a weekday versus a weekend, so we'd have to evaluate what the
What the cost
impact was
differential
going
would
to be,
be.
the total cost differential. So do I have a motion for the resolution as amended? Do you need to read it back?
Can you read it back?
Yeah. So what I'm doing is taking the resolution as written and just adding at the end, provided supervisor is unable to negotiate a modification later date, same or lower fee. Obviously, we all intended to.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Just for point of order, Madam Clerk, did we need to table the previous one, or was that fine that we just did what we did?
No, that was final.
Okay, fantastic.
Whereas the town of Ossining desires to add a title to their employee roster, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining does hereby create one full-time position in the competitive civil service title of senior automated systems with an annual salary of $56,250 and a probationary period of not less than 12 weeks and not to exceed 52 weeks. And be it also resolved that this position will be added to the Civil Service Employee Association bargaining unit.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Question?
Yes. This is in the building department, and this is related to the next item on the agenda as well, directly related to the next item on the agenda, L. So, right, so basically, Sandy and Nellie, who works in the building department, we've been working on, has many more responsibilities than she used to, since the planning department was restructured. And, as such, her position is now going to become a full-time position from a part-time position. No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Just getting a change.
Oh, she's getting a
Yep.
title change, sorry. Title change. And so this is acknowledging the title change, and I just want to acknowledge Maddie for all her hard work with the civil service to achieve this title change. It's been very long in coming. I think you've been working on it for 4 months.
That's the county civil service.
Yes. So I'm very grateful for all the hard work that you put in, and also have an excellent employee in Sandy, and we're looking forward to her continued good service in the building department. Yeah. Okay. So is there any other discussion? Can I have, all those in favor?
Aye.
We didn't show
Oh.
it.
You had a motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
else? Aye.
Abstentions?
Resolved the town board of the town of Ossining hereby appoint Sandra Nellie Ossining to the probationary position of senior office assistant automated systems in the town building department at an annual salary of $56,250 effective February the 8th, 2016.
A motion.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Yay. Looking forward, and congratulations to Sandy. Thank you.
Whereas the town of Ossining is required to collect town, county, and school taxes for the municipality, with the onus on the town to make whole the county and school district for any uncollected taxes. And whereas the receiver of taxes has been approached by a property owner requesting a short-term payment plan for the owner-occupied property of 6 Charles Place, tax parcel designation 89.16-4-33, and was a town board pursuant to Article 5 of the Ossining Town Code as authorized by Section 1184 of the New York Real Property Tax Law before entry of a final judgment may withdraw a parcel for which payment of real property taxes is delinquent from a foreclosure proceeding and enter into an installment plan for payment of all delinquent taxes as well as interest and penalties, and does occasionally grant such a plan, and has the discretion to accept or reject any proposal by a residential or commercial property owner, providing the owner meets the eligibility requirements set forth in Section 180-17 of the Town Code, and the payment of plan forms to be the requirements for such a repayment plan set forth in Section 180-18 of the Town Code. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austin hereby grants the aforementioned payment plan, which terms comply with the Town Code, to grant this property owner who has been determined to be eligible, with the understanding that this sets no precedent going forward for this or any other property in the future.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much. This was a very sad story and a very, hopefully it will be a happy ending.
Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Ossining readopts the town procurement policy at the start of every year, and whereas the Town Board of the Town of Ossining approved an amendment to the procurement policy at the March 24th, 2015 meeting that was not included in the 2016 adoption on January 12th, 2016. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby amends the 2016 procurement policy to include the below language under general provisions. As to the purchase of tires for town-owned vehicles, 1. Any supplier and/or distributor of tires to the town must be on New York State and/or Westchester County contract. 2. Any supplier and/or distributor of tires to the town must be able to provide all tires required and selected for any vehicle in the Town of Ossining fleet. 3. Whenever possible, a supplier, distributor with a facility within the town that otherwise meets all other criteria and requirements will be selected to supply tires to the town. 4. Travel time, delivery time will be factors utilized in selecting a tire supplier distributor. 5. In selecting a tire supplier distributor, preferences will be given if and when possible to purchase tires from American companies that manufacture tires within the United States. As to the use of tow companies and vehicle inspections for town-owned vehicles, 1. All tows of town-owned vehicles are to be done by Town of Ossining businesses, and 2. All automotive inspections of town-owned vehicles are to be done by Town of Ossining businesses.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I said, I just wish we could put a little thing. As long
Providing-
as it's competitive priced, or the fact that it's so different. Where above is really good, right? It says suppliers should be, unless, this is so different. You know what I mean, what if there's a better inspect competitive for a big snow plow?
Okay, so just getting back to and I think that the state inspection costs are set. I don't believe.
state.
They're set by the state. So as far as inspections go in price, I don't think that.
That would be an issue.
Right, I don't know if it's by axle or by, I think it's there's some sort of,
All of this, we got, this.
right?
So
we're
we
good?
cannot go outside this.
Okay,
They're
they're good.
they're
Okay.
good.
Okay. Mr. Wiltshire says it's good. I'm good.
Mike, and we are discussed it even with him.
Yeah.
We would-
Yeah. That's all I want.
It's-
Okay, so
We're
again,
good,
we're
we're
just
good.
readopting it because it wasn't part of the reorg meeting when we originally adopted our procurement policy. So it had been updated last year, and we just want to make sure that we kept it updated to what it had been discussed and gone through last year back to this year. So, out for discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstention?
resolved, the town board of the town of Ossining hereby authorizes establishing capital project 2015-2195 entitled Munis Implementation with a project budget of $180,762 to be funded by a fund balance transfer from multiple funds.
Have a motion.
So
Let's do, let's just, okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Munis?
Munis. It's pronounced Munis.
Okay.
Okay, and it's the software system that Village has decided is going to be the best software system to encapsulate all of our purchasing, our tax collection, our personnel, our payroll, everything. Right, so all of the different systems, we're shifting away from another system. It's going to be a process that is going to take approximately a year and a half to fully implement. We're hoping to kick it off in March, and the town is in an intermunicipal agreement with the village to utilize the same system so that we can all be in
Okay.
the same system, since we have so many
This is the
overlapping.
one the meetings have been about for the last year
Correct.
with Gloria and all the other departments, and they've all
Yes.
been talking and agreeing.
Correct.
So the department heads are all in on this and agreed.
Yes, and they're all going to be brought in also as we need them. There's going to be a core team that's going to be working on it, the ones who are going to be, who utilize the system the most, and then each department will be brought in to give feedback initially as to the, how the rollout will progress.
Okay, I wasn't aware that that was what Munis was.
That
Okay,
is what
thank
it
you.
is.
That was my
Okay,
question.
okay.
But
She
I'm
came
just
around.
asking the
Yeah.
question.
She was, no, this is different.
No, okay, no, we
But
don't
she's
go
on,
into it.
no, this is a different thing.
But it's still impacting,
she's-
it's going to
she's on
impact
board.
But
her.
she's on
Yes.
board
Oh,
with
she
it.
likes
Yes.
this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
she was able to go.
So I have a question, but it's different. So I think this is exciting. I think it's a great thing for us to, get up to, better in terms of the ability to have software that's going to help the employees in their jobs and the citizens and the residents in terms of how they interact with the municipalities. So I think this is a great thing. I only am questioning how the transfers are coming, because I see from the lighting district, from the fire district, from the refuse district, and I'm just a little confused by that, because I know we're doing fund balance, no, to pay for this? Okay. Yep, so every fund, just as it has an operating budget, also has a fund balance. So the ones that we most often talk about are the general fund, the town outside villages fund, which is the 20, and the 31. Those are the big three. But when we talk about our IMA payments to the Village of Ossining, and when we talk about our audit expenses, we actually take how much each operating fund encompasses of the whole town budget, and we allocate out the cost based on the percentage of the whole.
I
So
see.
that's why you see all of our funds are getting hit for exactly how much they encompass of the total.
I see, and that's how you got the numbers for the general versus the 20 fund versus, okay.
correct.
So it's percentage based.
That's correct.
Awesome. Exciting.
All righty.
Maddie does all this?
Yes,
Dale,
No,
Dale
Dale
does
does
all
it.
this.
Dale does this. Thank you, Dale. Maddie
We're very
does,
grateful.
Maddie does a lot of other things.
She does. Maddie is fantastic, and Dale is also fantastic. You both.
You got to thank Tom, or else we're going to get in trouble.
Oh, Tom.
Yes.
He knows he's fantastic. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you.
Whereas the town of Ossining seeks to memorialize the reliance on the state secret regulations and wishes to repeal Chapter 85 of the Town Code in order to revert to the state regulations regarding the same, and whereas town council has recommended such changes and has recommended that the town board also seek input from various agencies on this change. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board hereby refers draft local law number 2 of 2016 to the town planning board for review and comment.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This is just the part where we're letting the planning board take a look at it?
We're just going to send this to the planning board, and we'll also send the EAC recommendations along with it to the planning board so that they can look at it as a whole.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved, the town board of the town of Austin hereby appoints Ms. Christina LeBeau Yonkers to the temporary part-time position of intermediate clerk in the office of the town clerk at a rate of $13 per hour effective February 10th, 2016.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
And a
Temporary.
Temporary.
Right, it's a temporary leave replacement. That's all it is right now.
once it comes
Yes.
at the posted,
Yes, she does.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Resolved, the town board of the town of Austin hereby authorizes Madeline Zahach, the alternate delegate to the town of Austin for the Association of Towns, to vote on behalf of the town at the 2016 annual meeting on February 17th, consistent with the directives of the town board.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. So we were provided today with the list of the Association of Towns legislative agenda. It's 22 pages. We have all skimmed it. I don't think any of us have read it in depth, and we probably would like to. So as we believe that the Association of Towns is looking out for the best interests of all of the towns in New York State, we are going to hopefully send Maddie off to the voting part of this meeting to vote on our behalf. If anybody has any issues, I'm going to ask that you mention them to Maddie in advance of the meeting next Wednesday of the membership. And if there are any issues, then she can bring them up at the time or choose abstain from a vote if that makes the most sense for Austin. We're going to leave it in her very capable hands to know what it is that's in our best interest here in town of Austin, County of Westchester. Any other
I've already had a
discussion?
conversation with Mayor. I'll have more.
Okay. Else have anything that they've seen or want to, any concerns that you've noted or anything that you want her to know about at this moment? Otherwise, we funnel some information now and then. Okay. All right, if everybody's good with that?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Correspondence to be received and filed. Resolved, the town board of the town of Austin hereby accepts the following: the planning board meeting minutes dated December 16th, 2015.
Do I have a motion? Oh, I don't need a motion for, do I need a motion for correspondence? Oh, I do. Sorry.
So moved.
second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Monthly reports. Resolved, the town board of the town of Austin hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of January 2016. Town Supervisor's Office, Town Clerk's Office, Town Building Department, Tax Receiver's Office, the GE Helicopter Report, and Dale Cemetery Report.
Motion?
Second.
Discussion?
I don't remember seeing the Dale Cemetery.
There's actually two. There's the cash report, which is the monies that come in for, deed changes and what have you. And then Mr. Connolly also does a narrative, sort of the projects that they've been getting done. I'll make sure that you get them in an email, but they're on the FTP site as well.
Oh, is that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't see him in the email.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention?
That brings us into visitor recognition. Is there anyone here who's come to address the board?
Shara at 84 Morningside Drive. I'm really happy about Sandy's job title. I assume that's a promotion. I've had the pleasure of
Louder than I
I've
can-
had the pleasure of working with her in the building department, and she's really a wonderful employee. So I'm very happy about that. And while I'm on a roll, I should just say that the highway department does such a great job with the snow plowing, and I never say that, so I wanted to take the time to say that they do a really good job. Although I try to stay off the roads when it snows, but if I have to be out, I'm glad that they're doing their job. So I wanted to bring up, and it's interesting that you're going to be at the work session talking about the comprehensive plan, because on February 26, 2014, I had sent an email to the town board at the time requesting that they make a change based on a goal in the comprehensive plan, and it has to do with setbacks between commercial, the GB district, and residential district, and it's in two different sections of the comprehensive plan. And the town board at the time decided not to take this up except for council member Jeffrey. She thought it was a good idea. She also lives in the area that I live in, understands like there really is a need for this to be addressed. And it was unfortunate because a couple months later, a developer came in and they requested a change, a usage change in the zoning, and that was okayed and went through, and that's the proposal that's right behind my property. So it was a shame that they couldn't do both at the same time. So it'd be really great because so many people in our area have been impacted from development, so even if this doesn't help me, I think it's a really excellent thing to do. For those of you that aren't familiar, North State Road from Chappaqua Road, on the east side from Chappaqua Road to Suburban Carding, all of those properties, those commercial properties, butt up against residential properties. On the west side, almost every commercial property butts up against a residential property. The other thing to consider is that, I don't know why they did this, they put it in a flood zone, but North State Road is in the bottom of a valley. My property is about 40 feet higher than the property behind me. The front of my property goes down on a slope to the back, and that property on North State Road is about 40 feet lower. So the zoning as the zoning town code 218 GB, the general business district, has setbacks and landscape requirements for non-residential uses that are contiguous to residential used or residentially zoned lots. Right now it's 30 feet from the property line for a building or structure, and then they want to land there. It's zoned that at least an area 15 feet wide for landscaping shall be provided. They're saying 6-foot trees or 6-foot fence. So just imagine, houses starts the bottom of the house starts 40 feet above, and they're planting 6-foot trees or putting a 6-foot fence as a screening. It's not really screening much. So I think that the other thing to think of horticulturally is a 15-foot wide buffer for a Norway spruce or a pine, which is what people traditionally in development plant. Those plants mature at about a 60-foot width. I don't know what you're supposed to do with those plants in a 15-foot wide spot. So it's, I think these things should be thought out. So the comprehensive plan, just for your information, in two different places it mentions this. One is the G section, which I believe is the future and redevelopment. It states that the town should evaluate the buffer requirements for commercial uses and transition setbacks for non-residential uses adjacent to residential areas to determine whether the provisions are sufficient or need to be updated. And then in the residential section, which is C, I'm reading this is from last year, so they've updated, and I know that this is still in the, part of this is still in the new one. I'm not sure if it says exactly this language, but the objective is to require suitable buffer areas for non-residential uses and properties abutting neighborhoods and residential areas. And this part is, I know for sure, is still in the, updated one. Comprehensive plan. The town should evaluate the existing buffer requirements for residential and non-residential properties in the zoning code to determine whether they are sufficiently standard to achieve the intent of buffering and minimizing impacts between different types of land uses. So I sure would have loved this to have been addressed and not ignored, and while a developer was getting their being allowed to have a usage change. So several other properties have been impacted by development, and there's plenty of properties on North State Road that can be developed, and even little businesses that somebody could purchase and put a big building up, or like the garden center. That's a couple different proposals have been come for there, and that needs to be developed for sure because it looks terrible. But with better buffers, you're going to protect those residential areas, and most of those happen to have that part of North State Road where that garden center is on that side. That's a stream all the way down there. It comes from the back of my house through the property to North State Road and then goes all along there. So, it'll protect residential properties, but also our natural resources. So I hope when you're discussing this, you will look at those two sections. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board? Not seeing any. I have a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal advice and personnel.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Thank you, everybody. Have a safe evening and happy Lunar New Year and happy President's Day on Monday.